GM Fox fam, we'll get started in just a minute here too. Let a couple of stragglers join us. Enjoy the tunes. GM, well, it looks like Lo-Fi either got choked up or got muted, so I'll take that as a start to the governance call here. GM Fox fam, thank you for joining us for the 59th weekly governance call for the ShapeShift DAO. I'm Tyler ShapeShift, the operations workstream leader and interim marketing workstream leader, stepping in for Never Was to take on the host responsibilities for this governance call. It's been a minute since I've been here. Good to be back on the governance stage and good to be chatting with you fine Fox folk. We've got a couple of items on the call agenda today, not a whole bunch, so I don't think we'll be here for the full hour, but we'll definitely have the stage, and if good discussions come of it, then we will use the time appropriately. So if you're following along on some form of a streaming service and this is your first time, or you're in the audience and this is your first time, it's a couple of helpful resources to follow along with. There's the ShapeShiftDAO stage chat where you can post your thoughts and feelings and questions about what you might see on the stage today. We'll address those questions as they come with the presenters. You can also raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage to let your voice be heard. There's also a Zoom chat at the top of the stage, or a Zoom link at the top of the stage chat where you can follow along with the slides that I'll be presenting on. Yeah, and that's how we're going to run the call today. Big BD to anyone over at Cosmoverse right now, too, especially if you're hopping on the call while you're there. I'm sure there's a lot of crazy crypto things going on there, and I'm super sad I'm not there to join in with the festivities. But I hope you all have a good time, and a big, big BD to you all. The agenda for the call today, we're going to do a quick round of appreciations. Then we'll go over all of our proposals that are in snapshot right now. So that's proposals that have recently passed, as well as proposals that are currently active. And then we'll look into upcoming proposals, or rather posts that are on the forum, either in incubation. Oh, what up, Lo-Fi? Strange. That was interesting. Is there a reason Lo-Fi is attacking me? Oh, she just wants to jam. Yeah, she does. Well, I gotta talk, so Lo-Fi's gonna stay off the stage for a little bit. I was speaking about our forum though, and saying that after our proposals that we'll review, we'll look at items that are either in the ideation phase or the incubation phase of posts. Right now, ideation is utilizing snapshots, so we can get Fox votes for that. And incubation posts are made in the forum where we can have active discussion and feedback on the items that are being proposed before they hit a full vote in proposals. So we'll also have some time to discuss the governance process, or kind of an open Q&A floor if anyone's got some stuff they'd like to bring to us. And then maybe we'll give some people some time back. I know the agenda is a little bit shorter if you saw it. So, Gray Machine says that Lo-Fi is challenging me to a rap battle. I think I'd win because she's instrumental, yo. So I think I got that one in the bag. I don't know if I'm gonna do a governance proposal or a presentation here as a host in rhyme. I'm not really good at that kind of thing, you know. But I feel like I could at least speak over it and do one of those like beats with like the person talking, you know, meditation vibe or something like that. I could do that all right. So yeah, white men can't rap. I fall into that stereotype 100%. Without making this process go on any longer, let's get going. So we're on to appreciations. This is the round where we talk about Fox props, and then we can bring other people up on the stage, share praise, thank yous, and appreciations for their contributors or others that they've been working with this week, seen in the crypto space, something like that. Definitely going to read through our Fox props, and we had a big one that actually made it to a full announcement, and it's a Fox prop and appreciation for the entire crew that worked on the mobile app. We've gotten it live into the Google Play Store. We're still working on getting through the last of the steps to get into the Apple Store, but this is huge, huge, huge Fox props and appreciation for all of the hard work that you guys have done. Willie Fox, Major Hayes, DeFi Cafe, Apotheosis, Gones, Kevin, Diggy, Beard, Gray Machine, Hoff, Never Was, PTT Cruiser, Wesley, T-Shifty, MB Maria, Lich, H-Pain, Arena, the Smith, Firebomb, JP Nam, Vlad, Ocean, Adam, Conscious. There's countless more that weren't even tagged in that announcement that I know you guys all contributed to making this new app happen. And it's one of the big final puzzle pieces of us moving away from the centralized ShapeShift and towards something that's completely owned by the DAO. You guys all worked really, really hard. Some long hours, some frustrating times and experiences were had, but at the end of the day, we got something out there. So biggest of Fox props and huge appreciations and praise and thank you to all of you for the hard work that you did on that. Yes, a lot of teamwork was put in there to get that done. So yeah, Fox props to you all. This is now the time if you'd like to add on to the stage. If you've got some shout outs you want to mention about a contributor or someone else, I would love to share that praise. So feel free to throw that on the stage or even hop up, raise your hand, and you can chat with me about who you like and who you're appreciative of. We'll hang out for just a second here, and if not, I'll keep going. No other appreciations. It's all good. It's been a very hectic heads down week as we work towards parity and as we got that mobile app out. And I just shouted out like 15 or 20 of y'all. So big appreciation to all of you. Thank you all. It makes me proud to be a Fox, seeing the way in which you guys can work through this bear market together and ways in which we can strive towards better efficient systems in this platform we'd all like to see change the world of crypto, maybe change the world even beyond that. So keep biddling and keep down it, Fox fam. Really appreciate all that you all are doing. Whoa, done that wrong GIF. How am I what's going on here? There we go. Cool. Apologies for the technical difficulties. We are now into the proposals. First up, we have our first pass proposal, which is SCP-102, create a new Fox XDAI region farm to incentivize liquidity on the Gnosis chain. And this was put up by Kotabe. I'm not sure if Kotabe is out there in this stage, so I can briefly recap this for you guys. Basically, there was a previous proposal a long time ago getting us to incentivize with Fox some rewards for an LP pool on the Gnosis chain for XFox. And the LP program, the Region Farm Liquidity Mining Program, is going to finish on the 2nd. So this would be another series and renewal of that. That would be a total spend of 750K in Fox tokens that we would then put as a reward for those that are locking up their Fox to create this nice liquidity pool for us. This did pass with 1.5 million votes yes and 0 votes no. So no opposition to this one. And it looks like we'll have to do some fast acting to make sure that we fill the gap between here and the 2nd with the Treasury. And I know that Willie Fox is deep inside the Cosmoverse right now, so I'll have to coordinate with him to make sure that we can get this taken care of. But it's really exciting to see that the community cares enough about those LP pools out there on side chains and really growing kind of the ecosystem of Fox even beyond its native kind of chain there in ETH. So cool to see that the community is looking forward to continuing this incentivized liquidity. And if you're a Fox holder out there that's providing XFox on Gnosis or are looking to maybe put some of your Fox somewhere to earn some yield, this is a great way to do it here. So exciting for those that are going to keep getting some of that Fox from the rewards there. And if you're looking to park your Fox somewhere and you haven't thought about Gnosis Chain, this next 6 months renewal for these incentivized liquidities might be a good thing for you to think about. So yeah, we'll keep you updated when that thing goes live, and I'm sure Willie Fox or myself will be making an announcement once the next program starts. So GM on that. Up next, we've got SCP-105, which is the pre-authorization of $500,000 in Fox for the purchase or creation of LP tokens. And that's from our very own Kent. GM, sir.
Hey, Tyler. Great to have you back on the governance stage. I know you're wearing a lot of hats these days, but you walking through the governance stuff is always a pleasure to hear.
Oh, of course, happy to be here. It took me by surprise, and I didn't realize I was going to be cameoing until yesterday afternoon, and it was a nice surprise. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike, right? You just hop right back on and bam.
Totally,
Um,
totally. Well, tell us about this proposal that just passed and where we're at and what the next steps are.
yes. So there really are no immediate next steps here. This was sort of a sort of preemptive type of pre-authorization that we wanted to get into place related to the liquidity as a service position, that Fox token position that Tribe held or holds. That's 15.3 million Fox. So the concern was, as Tribe was winding down, that a single actor, a group of a few actors might purchase that Fox at a relatively low price, OTC, and then quickly dump it on the market. This would cause possibly like a very rapid diminishment in our Uniswap V2 liquidity pool to the point where potentially the spreads would be so wide that it could sort of really paralyze the operations of the DAO and really discourage Fox holders from really doing anything with their token. So the idea with this was, in the event that happens, we take some actions. I'll get to that. But first of all, to update everybody on where things are. So it turns out that the scenario where a different third party could come in and dump this OTC is now moot, and so is another scenario where maybe Tribe themselves would just dump all that OTC or dump all the that Fox on the market. The reason is they voted via their own governance process to distribute it pro rata to all Tribe holders. So the interesting thing about this is it's not like an airdrop where all Tribe holders will simply, see somehow their Tribe is burned and they get all the PCV, the protocol control value. That would be Fox and also other tokens that are currently under control of or under Tribe's control. Instead, Tribe holders will need to go to use to a specific redemption contract where they send in their Tribe and then get those tokens. So the odds of a sort of just um, giant liquidity sort of downward spike are much less now. There will certainly be probably some price pressure resulting from this as a result of whales redeeming their Tribe for Fox, and then they might not see the value in it. But the sales pressure should be more diminished. So kind of circling back around, the goal of this was certainly not to like try to fight the market and prevent any sort of like price decline. It was more with an eye towards like liquidity specifically. So it was also tied to two separate or two separate but related preconditions. One of course is that it had to be triggered by Tribe. We're not looking to do something just based on market conditions that might exist normally. It'd have to be related to specifically this Tribe held Fox getting dumped, and then also the specific parameter or precondition is that for on a rolling 48-hour period, liquidity would have to decline by 20% or more. So technically, like if the TMDC was seeing evidence that whales are dumping their Fox and causing this to happen, then possibly there might be some action that could be taken that's been pre-authorized. Specifically, that would be purchasing up to $500,000 worth of Fox, or adding liquidity to a corresponding amount of liquidity to the Uniswap V2 pool, or a combination thereof. But we would have to be very careful about this because it's a little bit harder to discern between market weakness and what's causing and like a Tribe related decline. But so TLDR on this one, it's probably just a moot point. I'm glad we were proactive about doing this because it was sort of a weird situation. But we're keeping a close eye on this, and we'll keep everybody posted. But thanks for everybody who kind of participated in that discussion.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's glad to know there's not so many of those potential outcomes that could be way outside of our control, and more doomsday-ish on the table now. So thank you so much for you and the team looking out for us there and pulling whatever safety nets we need to make sure that we don't have some disastrous downward spiral action happening there.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, sir. Well, that is our 2 past proposals. Doesn't look like we've got any questions about either of those, so we'll move on to the one current active proposal. Oh, and Kent, you're still here. This next one is 106, renewing the VFox committee for another 6-month term.
I'll just hang out here on the stage. Maybe we get Lo-Fi back up here and do like a power trio.
There we go. We'll switch off and be DJs for a while. Well, let us know what's going on with 106.
Yes. So this is now on chain. I just moved this to the actual vote this week. So this pertains to VFox and specifically a 6-month continuation of the VFox committee. That is John, Willie, and myself. This does not pertain to like specifically anything else about the sub-DAO. So the sub-DAO was created by a prior proposal, and this is dedicated to making strategic allocations and sort of earlier stage tokenized projects. Currently on the committee is the 3 of us. The original proposal stated that that committee would serve for a 6-month term. That 6-month term expired, hence it was time to re-up for another 6 months. So this proposal just kind of outlines a little bit about the work we've done so far. We've made 2 strategic allocations on behalf of the DAO, and sort of we've had some nice discussions around this as well in the forum. So basically all this does is just would extend for another 6 months that term. An important thing to note, though, if anybody is opposed to the notion of VFox in general, or maybe just in making allocations in this bear market climate, a no vote would effectively freeze the sub-DAO's ability to make any additional allocations unless something else was done. So certainly, if you're on that side of the fence, give this a good no vote. That's an understandable perspective right now. To that point, I would argue, and I think along with John and Willie, that there is a place to be made for very carefully making allocations, even in this difficult climate where we have limited runway, because now is a good time to be doing that, given decreased valuations across the board and dried up investment liquidity. Anyway, if anybody has any questions about that, they can hop into the tokenomics forum or DMs. But that's kind of the gist of it.
Thanks, Kent. Yeah, I think it's definitely a very interesting time to be potentially making investments in the market. But I do know that I don't know, when the streets are bloody is the time that I try and see that Bitcoin is on sale, or things like that. And I think that you said it best there, that a lot of these, we've had some really healthy conversations around the timing of all of these things in the forum there. So I can definitely see both sides to us trying to continue to make these well-timed positions in this bear market, or also think more deeply about austerity across the board. So this is one that I really hope we can have Foxes jump in and make their voices heard on this question.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks, Kent. There's a question in the channel about the price of Fox versus XFox, so it's Foxy. And yeah, the simple answer is Fox has a fixed supply in Ethereum, and 1 Fox equals 1 Fox. 1 Fox should equal 1 XFox due to arbitrage from opportunities from people able to bridge back and forth. And then, that's kind of the nature of how that pricing should work. So I hope that answers your question there, sir. Thanks, Kent. The voting for this is still super early. Looks like we only have about 12K Fox for yes and 200 Fox for no. So we're nowhere near quorum. And if you're looking for more information or you've still got questions, I think the forum is a perfect place to start fielding those to make an informed decision one way or another on how you guys feel about renewing VFox. All right, before we get into forum posts, just another casual reminder that Ideation and Metaphoro are almost married. We did have a proposal pass that Willie Fox posted up about us moving the forum and all of our ideation and incubation steps inside our governance process over to this really slick Web3 native platform in Metaphoro. There's some work that we need to do to kind of move everything over there. So that's still kind of waiting in the wings. Until then, right now we are using Snapshot to make sure that we can get Fox votes on anything that makes it out of the incubation phase and into the ideation phase, which is a required phase before we make it over to the proposals. So that's my spiel on that. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions about the specifics on doing this, there is a governance channel inside the Discord, or else you can reach out to folks like myself, Willie Fox, John is John, Never Was. There's quite a few that are pretty well-versed in the governance process, the timelines, the expectations, the templates, those kind of things, and will happily help you at any point in the process if it becomes confusing for you. Now we're on to new incubation posts. We've only got one there, and this is one posted by Postagos, and that's ratifying a code of conduct and granting the moderation workstream authority to enforce its provisions. Let me send out a invite to you, Pasta. GM, sir.
GM, how's it going?
Doing well. Wish I was at Cosmoverse, but can't complain too much otherwise.
Yeah, that makes two of us. Yeah. Still stateside.
Mm-hmm. Well, please tell us about this proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. So this came out of some discussions about, I don't know, like, placing some limits on allowable speech, what kind of community we want to have here, whether or not it's appropriate for us to place some bounds at what we want to allow in our forum and on Discord discussions, and whether or not the moderation workstream currently has the authority to enforce the code of conduct as it stands now. So there is a code of conduct that was posted on the forum some time ago by Willie Fox. There, as a matter of precedent, sort of held each other to the standards that are outlined. So far, we did have a situation, unfortunately, recently, where the moderation workstream was called upon to take action for a perceived violation of the code of conduct. And it brought to discussion whether or not the moderation workstream explicitly had the authority to do that. So this proposal is actually going to be a little bit different, I think, than the ones that have gone before, because I'm not actually directly advocating for what's written in the proposal. It brought up what I thought was a very important discussion to have as a community. And I think that making the right decision here is of critical importance to the future success of the DAO, given the potential for damage should we make the wrong decision. Now, I don't claim to be able to tell the DAO what the right decision is. And I actually don't have strong reservations about what form the right decision takes. But I think that this is the right decision is one that's made by the entire community. And so I tried to do a good job, as best I could anyway, of presenting both sides of the discussion in the proposal. And what I would very much like to see is a strong, spirited discussion with as many of the community members as are interested in this involved, so that we can figure out what's the best route for us to take as a community. And so if you haven't had a chance to take a look over this, it's a little bit long. Giant Ken did a great job of putting together a pretty thorough code of conduct. He shuffled up to some of the workstream leaders, asked some of the workstream leaders for review and editing advice. So a good number of us have some of our input reflected there. And yeah, I would encourage everyone, if you're interested, to compare the benefits and drawbacks sections and really give this some thought, because yeah, I think the risk of making a not very well informed decision is potentially high, but we want to ensure that what am I trying to say? The nature of the community that comes out of these kinds of sweeping DAO-wide decisions is what we intend. So yeah, I think that's about all I've got to say about that for now. If you're interested in my opinions about this, we can talk about that another time, but or at the end of this call. But yeah, that's just, I think, a pretty general overview of what's contained in this proposal and what the intent is.
Yeah, I really appreciate you setting the stage there so well, Pasta, for that, including your own, a little bit of your own perspective there on how you feel about this. I think there was a slightly similar governance proposal that was around the clarification of the governance process itself, that I think is like a good slight analogy, where in order for us to be in this DAO where we first started, someone simply had to start the formation of the sandcastle, and Willie Fox posted a lot of these kind of declarations, if you will, around how the presumed future DAO would operate. And one of those was this code of conduct there. And we always kind of thought at some point the DAO would take it upon ourselves to ratify something in a way that all of the community could be a part of. And I think that now we're kind of at that point. And it's unfortunate that we had kind of the circumstances and violations of the code of conduct force the hand of this. But such is the nature of code of conducts, right? But yeah, I think we can definitely have the dialogue around this and different perspectives. This is the call to do so. I'm not sure if you'd like to share your feelings, Pasta, here, or if we'd like to have other people hop up and share their own perspectives. I'm happy to share the stage with you, though, and chat with you about it.
Sure. This could get a little lengthy. Do we have any more items on the agenda? I just want to make sure that in case this
the only other item that I have is an old incubation post for the EPNS updates, which would be an addition to a proposal that would name myself, the operations workstream leader, as someone who can add and remove new people for the push notification service that we have here. But it's an old proposal. There's no updates to it. And Willie Fox was the one who proposed it and seems to be MIA on the call while he's at the Cosmoverse. So I think that statement in and of itself probably wraps it up, and we can revisit it again if we have some more time after this discussion. But I think the next 28 minutes, if we wanted to dedicate to this conversation, could rightfully so be done.
Sure. Yeah, let's try going ahead and getting the conversation started. Maybe first I'll motivate why it is that I think this to be of such strong importance to the future success of the DAO. And I will say that I do understand both sides of this argument. So on the one hand, things up until recently, right, had been relatively harmonious at the DAO, and there hadn't been a lot of reason to take this into strong consideration. Of course, I don't want to, get specific about it, but everyone, presumably knows what I'm talking about. There were lots of heated discussions with many parties involved. Tempers flared. A few, individuals express themselves in ways that other individuals in the community, found to be offensive or harmful or harassing, right? And so it's completely understandable that, there would be calls to have those who violated the code of conduct that was as it was understood to be removed from the discussion or removed from the community. I don't agree with that perspective, but I do understand it. Nobody wants to, for a lot of us, right? We devote a considerable number of hours out of the total day to this effort, right? Nobody wants to spend a lot of time in a place where they're being harassed, right? That's completely understandable. I, on the other side of this, do have some reservations about whether or not it really is in the best interest of the community in the long term to ratify any code of conduct at all. And the reason that I say that is because, fundamentally, what we're doing in ratifying a code of conduct and allowing individuals to be removed from the conversation for violations of the code of conduct is placing limitations on allowable free speech of the community. And while the intent now is certainly that, only egregious violations of what's considered to be common decency in a professional environment, would be grounds for removal. In many other very familiar places where similar kinds of measures have been taken to prevent what's considered to be, harmful or unproductive speech, harmful or unprofessional speech, from entering the conversation. The provisions outlined in the code of conduct and the ability to enforce those provisions by removing individuals from the communities has been abused. And abused in such a way that those abusing it necessarily don't have nefarious intent. But I think the actions that are taken by those enforcing the code in the places that I'm referring to do, have ultimately harmful effects on the community as a whole in the long term. And so in particular here, what I am concerned about is the reliance on terms that can't be objectively defined, like speech which constitutes harassment, or speech that is negative or hateful or hurtful or something like that. Those are inherently subjective terms. And so in adopting a code of conduct that uses that kind of language and giving the authority to the moderation workstream to remove individuals from the community for saying things that other members might find harassing or harmful or hateful or something, we're necessarily placing a lot of trust in one or a small number of individuals to curate our conversations. And what I think may happen, or what I'm concerned may happen, to some degree because of historical precedent here, but to a much greater degree because of historical precedent outside of the DAO, is that this may turn into a mechanism that stifles dissenting opinions here. And I think in order for us to, that's an essential corrective mechanism that we have to apply in order to ensure that from the standpoint of strategic decision making, we're making the right decisions as a community for all decisions going forward. I'm not sure who said it, and it sounds pithy, but I think it to be correct that any group of people who does not have freely available a mechanism to express dissent cannot at any point have been said to have given affirmative consent. And so if dissenting voices are removed from the conversation, or much more likely, but just as concerning, an environment is created where people feel less free to express dissenting opinions, then we can't be sure that from a standpoint of strategic decision making, we're on the right track in the eyes of the community. And so, I think we need to weigh carefully the pros and cons here. On one hand, we, by not enforcing a code of conduct, we're potentially allowing, the conversation to devolve into something that everyone would agree is toxic, unpleasant, and people will, divert their attention elsewhere. On the other hand, right, if a code of conduct is enforced in a way that betrays the original understanding or the original intent of the document, right, we run the risk of fundamentally undermining what makes the DAO structure valuable. And so, while I do understand both sides, I think we all need to get into the conversation here and figure out what's best to do. So I think I'll stop there for now.
No, for sure. I appreciate that. There's definitely a good conversation happening in this stage right now. You used the word abuse when you were talking about some of the terms or maybe rules here, and there was some questions around maybe citing specific examples or what you meant there. It looks like we kind of walked through it a little bit in terms of what you were saying, but happy to address that or allow you to address that if you wanted to too.
Take a look at online community. Take a look at any of the social media environments. Take a look at online communities like Reddit. Take a look at what discussions were like on Clubhouse. All of these communities have similarly well-intentioned codes of conduct, similarly well-intentioned terms of service. However, discussions on these platforms is far from a meritocratic exchange of ideas, and speech is far from free on all of these platforms. It's the natural tendency of people, I think, or as far as I'm aware anyway, to prefer opinions which strongly resemble their own, right? And it's the natural tendency of most people anyway, right, to seek to stifle opinions, right, which are in direct opposition to theirs, right? You hear terms like, I don't know, this is not exactly what I'm worried about here, but to give like concrete examples of what it is that I'm talking about, on these other platforms, right? You hear terms like hate speech thrown around on Facebook, right? As cause for removal of certain individuals from the platform, from the communities, right? There is no precise definition of what constitutes hate speech. There's supposed to be some general understanding of what that means, right? Some general colloquial understanding. But what you see is in practice that's able to be wielded because there is no precise objective definition given as a tool to silence opinions that moderators disagree with. Well, I guess on Reddit, right, you've got moderators, all of whom are opinionated, who are allowed to use, and I don't think there's any nefarious intent here. So don't get me wrong, there's nothing conspiratorial going on. This is just a natural tendency of people who are allowed to use the terms of service as outlined by Reddit with good intentions to remove from the conversation opinions that they sharply disagree with. And so here, dissenting opinions are necessarily going to be negative in nature. So if any community member, a group of community members, wishes to express a dissenting opinion against an idea, against a set of strategies, or against a person, right? The stage has to be open to allow for negative things to be said in order for that to be done effectively. Especially if the dissenting opinion is directed at a person in particular. It doesn't, now, how it's phrased is different from the content of the dissenting opinion. There are many ways to express dissenting opinions, right? And I'm not saying that all of them are equally appropriate, but in trying to remove from conversation dissenting opinions phrased in such a way that would be understood by all to be inappropriate. We do, I think, run the risk of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, if that's the appropriate use of that phrase, and stifling all dissenting opinions, and that fundamentally would rid us of a necessary corrective mechanism, so that we can self-govern properly. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I use the word abuse. Abuse was the wrong term to use because it does apply, I think, implies some intentional nefarious intent, but that's not what I mean.
Definitely appreciate the clarification there. And yeah, I think that's why you setting the stage as well as you did here about how important this part of this ideation phase here is. We can reshape these. If there are things inside our code of conduct that we're not happy with defining or with lack of definition around, now's the time that the community can weigh in there. I see a lot of comments of acknowledging kind of the downsides to some of these aspects, and a lot of people pointing out that the mod squad is someone that they trust, and not that this should be the binary that we just give free rein to those that we trust, but that there's also mechanisms in the governance process as well to remove any nefarious actors that should choose to not should choose to abuse or move around.
So I will say that I have no concerns about the mod squad as it stands right now. PK, you're fantastic. We have to. I think it's important that we make sure to draft policy that is separate from its immediate application, right? Or that is to draft policy. Yeah, that's considered separately from its immediate application, right? I think it's a good strategy for us to try and adopt policy that's necessarily robust to nefarious actors. Not to say that I have any concern about nefarious actors at the current time, but the policy is very likely to outlast the people who are trusted at the current time with implementing it. And so, I think we would do well to, consider all, DAO level policy that we put into practice through that lens. And that's where I'm coming from when I bring up these concerns. So yes, there is a mechanism to remove moderators who are perceived to be abusing their authority or acting against the best interest of the DAO. I'll say two things. One, I have some strong concerns about the effectiveness of that in practice. But two, with this in particular, if we've got moderators who are removing dissenting opinions, how is anybody going to know, that there's strong concerns about moderators abusing the power? They'll be removed from the conversation. I don't think that's an entirely realistic concern, but I'm saying that to say that, I think, yes, while there are corrective mechanisms, I think it's better to act preventatively than to, while we can. I think it would be better for us to act preventatively while we have the option to, than wait for a problem to arise and try to fix it on the other side. Now, obviously, there limits the practicality of doing that. But, if there's low-hanging fruit, I think we would do well to address it upfront.
There's a comment made in their stage chat that Joshua New Leaf Tech says pasta is boss. Completely a great example of dissenting opinion and said positively and well. And I think that's kind of maybe the heart of the elephant in the room here, or what you're very eloquently communicating here as well. And maybe I'll just crassly say some things. I know that I kind of have to recurse myself from some of this conversation because a lot of you are aware of the fact that I was the target of some harassment and things like that, that this had to be kind of enacted and brought to the present situation that we're at here. And I'd just like to highlight that there is a big field of difference between communicating dissent and publicly attacking. And while people are throwing the F word in the chat and things like that. You know, there's a way in which you can communicate dissent, and then there's a way in which you're just calling someone a fucking loser. And the two are completely different, and the two are not things that maybe we should conflate as being the same. And I hear where you say too that like you don't believe that there to be some extreme abuses where the dissent's just going to be deleted and stuff like that. And I don't think you're conflating the same as well. But I think it's well worth saying and acknowledging that some of the people here can see the lines of the free speech that you're outlining too, and also think that there's an appropriate professional level of discourse that can be met while not I hope maybe is being communicated, and maybe I'm interpreting what some people are saying, that hopefully we can meet the needs of allowing that audience and realm of dissent to happen, but in a way that can be met by all sides is consensually respectful and professional.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the ideal outcome. But as far as I've seen with attempts to do that online, or maybe I haven't seen earnest attempts to do that in other communities, it appears to me, assuming that the attempts that I've recognized as such to do that in other online communities were made in earnest, that's an extremely difficult balance to strike. As our own Highlander knows, the Reddit community can be somewhat oppressive toward free speech. And I think the entire stated intent of Reddit up front was to be an open forum for respectful discussion on any topic at all. But I think in attempts to enforce that and curate the discussion, Reddit has become one of the most oppressive places to free speech that I'm aware of.
Sorry, there's a lot going on in the stage chat. Sorry, yes, there's lots of F-bombs or people saying the word fuck. You're welcome, GK. You can ban me later. It looks like there's still a continuing conversation going on here around the mods abusing powers. And yeah, I think what's the most recent one about people having to post that Greg Abbott is a piss baby or else they get banned. That's the inverse of all of this, yeah, I think that this is definitely one that I don't think in this conversation in the next 9 minutes we're going to come to consensus on this, but I definitely think there's a lot of great meat here that we brought up and that you brought up specifically, Pasta, here for us to be chewing on and discussing and coming up with the best way forward. I agree with you that we shouldn't write any of these proposals with the assumption that the people that are governing these rules are going to be here forever and are always going to abide ethically and by the ways in which they are right now. So maybe there are checks and balances that we can also provide that live outside of the current governance process that should be deeply considered here. And maybe this is something that can speak beyond even this proposal to future ones. I feel like there's been some almost landmark proposals that we've had as a DAO that have set precedent for how future proposals kind of are interpreted and things like that. And I think that this is for sure going to be another page in that book. Yeah, I haven't looked on the stage to see if anyone wanted to raise their hand and join me and Pasta.
Joshua,
doesn't look like
you're
that.
Right. A lot of the arguments that I'm making are hyperbolic, but I'm doing that intentionally. I don't think that much of any of this is applicable at the current time. But situations arise quite quickly where what seem like ridiculous, inapplicable arguments are immediately not any longer. And so I'm using hyperbolic examples now just to draw attention to strongly negative outcomes that are very much on the table should we consider this policy thoroughly. But no, I also definitely recognize that none of this is applicable. Almost none of this is applicable immediately. Because yeah, there's no problem.
I still think it's definitely worth the exercise, even if it's in kind of more of an ideological one. We are a DAO, you know, we are doing things in organizational structure that are been only lightly paved before us or haven't really been discovered and figured out for the true way. And the way in which we choose to move forward will speak highly both for ourselves as Foxes, but kind of for the greater collective of organizations in the future. So there's lots of ways in which we need to be thinking of our children's children's children or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. On crypto timelines, it's like 3.5 weeks from now.
Exactly, until the next fork.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, this has been a really great discussion, Pasta. I appreciate it. I was honestly a little nervous about doing this with you, and it turned out really, really, really great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm sorry. I hope you didn't expect a bunch of F-bombs on stage. That's not what I was.
We can do it now. We can bring up lo-fi and just scream fuck a whole bunch if you want.
That's what I have on my schedule for later.
That's what actually happens in the meditation that no one goes to. You go in there, it's just people screaming fuck as loud as they can. At least that's what I do for meditation.
Oh yeah. Better out than in, that's what I always say.
Outside or not at all. That's what I say. All right, GM Fox fan. I don't know a better way to end a